Hey Jeremy, I just wanted to give you some feedback here in terms of your first writing assignment. Okay, so I definitely think that you did a good job in targeting this particular group of students or this audience. I'm going to talk a little bit later in my feedback here as to maybe how to address this audience a little bit differently than the way you did. All right. You begin by providing a little bit background on yourself, which I think is a good thing that you've done. I really like the way that you were able to bring in Deborah Brandt. I think her article really does provide a great context for the rest of your paper because it's really what your paper relies on heavily. The one thing I will say, be careful when you're using a quote and then you transition out of the quote that you don't make it a run-on sentence. You write, when she said, comma, literacy like land, this is basically everything she says. It rang true to me. That let's just say that all she said this. Let's say this is what she said, right? When she said, quote, literacy like land is a valid commodity in this economy, period. It rang true to me. That would be okay because this is um, this isn't a full sentence, but notice that if you keep going here, the sentence ends, then you have another sentence right here, it ends over here, and then all of a sudden you have, if you want to continue it, this now all of a sudden becomes a run-on sentence because it's just way too much. This is too separated from your words over here as well. So maybe you can say, in her article, she states, comma, literacy like land, and then put a period here, and then you can say, as I reflect on this, these words rang true to me, period. So that way you separate this, okay? All right, so like I said, you talk quite a bit about the financial aspect of literacy, and of course, on your end, you talk about why, where you realized, that was something that you needed to pursue certainly more. This is definitely a driver for me to want to sharpen my reading and writing, okay? You give us a little bit of background on yourself and kind of who you growing up, and really school wasn't necessarily your top priority. Even though she read to you all the time, you're right, but she did not push for us to, for you to do the same, right? You never picked up reading on your own. You were involved in other things. In here, I'm not quite. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how this relates. I mean, I know that he's talking about the fact that for him, a comic book was the first thing that he remembers reading. At the same time, he was seeing the world in paragraphs. But you said, I wish I had looked at reading comics this way. It's just, over here you're saying I hated to read unless it was a comic book, and then that's, basically the relationship between this quote and here it's the comic book, but he's using it in a positive way. You're saying I just wish I would have been exposed to comic books. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know if this quote is maybe the perfect fit here. Just something for you to think about. All right. And then the paper kind of turns. So this is where I was a little bit confused, because in here you talked a little bit about your life and kind of what, kind of how you came to be the person that you are in terms of your literacy. Over here, like I said, you were talking about sort of the importance of literacy in general, but then over here the paper now becomes your time with Professor David Finley at CGCC, and kind of what the impact that class had on you. So it's almost as if now I'm reading two papers. The first paper had to do with sort of your background and you growing up, and then what that was like, and then this section of the papers is more about your time in this particular class. So the paper seems to be in two different directions. So that's the part that I think I want you to address in this paper, Jeremy. I want you to maybe pick one of those, not both of them, because when you choose both of them, what happens is that you can't really expand on either of them, just because you say a little bit about one, a little bit about the other, but not really a lot about either of them. And then finally over here, this is where I was saying that when you're trying to address your audience, that you do so in such a way where you're not necessarily telling them what to do, so that you don't take on this voice as you're taking the voices of like a father or of a teacher. So for example, you're like, following are some of the things I do to help myself, which could work for you too. instead of doing that, let me show you how to do that, how to say that, how to give advice without sounding like you're giving them advice. For example, you're right. In talking with others that have difficulty with reading and writing, I find that they have similar experiences. Um, for me, one of the places, or in as I've grown or as I've gone to school, I've learned a few lessons that have certainly helped me. For one place or one strategy that has really helped me is to find a quiet place in the school library. And there you go. So to try to find some place quiet. Notice that I'm not telling them this is what would work for you. This is just saying this is what worked for me. And in doing so, you're implying, in doing that, you're trying to give them advice as well. In here, instead of saying remind yourself that reading and writing will get you further in your career, you can also say of value for me was also the constant reminder that my literacy was a way to improve my social economic status. Again, you're not telling them this is what you need to do. You're saying this is what I did. This is what's helped me. And once again, in doing that, you are implying, you are giving them that message. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions for me, Jeremy. I'd be happy to give you more feedback. Okay? Thanks.